Welcome to Wild Earth Creatures, where every creature has a story. Let the adventure begin. Imagine a bird so precious that ancient Mesoamerican societies treated its feathers as symbols of power, status, and the sacred. Now imagine that this same bird struggles to survive when its forest disappears. This is the Resplendent Quetzal. And here's the strange part. That enormous, spectacular tail you see on the male isn't even there when he's young. It can take years before those famous feathers develop. So why would evolution give a forest bird such an extravagant tail? If living in the wild is already dangerous enough? Today, we're following the Quetzal into the misty forests of Central America to discover its incredible biology, ancient legend, unusual lifestyle, and the threat that may determine its future. High in the mountains of Central America, where clouds drift between ancient trees, something extraordinary moves through the canopy. For a moment, the forest seems to flash green. Then red. Then blue. And suddenly, it's gone. You've just seen a resplendent quetzal. This remarkable bird lives mainly in tropical and mountain cloud forests, particularly across parts of southern Mexico and Central America. But it doesn't live like a bird you might see hopping around a garden. The quetzal prefers the high forest. It spends much of its time perched among branches, surrounded by mist, leaves, and filtered sunlight. And that sunlight is important. Its feathers don't simply have one flat color. Their structural properties create an iridescent appearance, allowing the plumage to shift between shades of green, blue, and even golden tones depending on the light. The male takes this spectacle even further. During breeding season, his upper tail feathers grow into an extraordinary flowing train that can approach 3 feet, or roughly 1 meter, in length. For a bird that isn't especially large, that's an astonishing amount of decoration. But the quetzal's story isn't really about beauty. It's about survival. The male quetzal spends years growing into the bird we recognize. His famous tail plumes don't immediately appear. Instead, they develop as he matures. And when breeding season arrives, those feathers become part of a spectacular display. The male may use exposed perches and aerial movements to advertise himself. His long green train follows behind him like a ribbon through the forest. But there's a problem. The quetzal is not built for spending much time on the ground. Its unusual feet are adapted for gripping branches, with 2 toes pointing forward and 2 backward. That arrangement makes it an excellent percher, but a rather awkward walker. So the quetzal belongs in the trees. And that's where another remarkable adaptation appears. Instead of building a conventional nest from twigs, a pair may use a cavity in a rotten tree. Their powerful bills can work through soft, decaying wood, or they may take advantage of an existing cavity. Inside that dark chamber, the spectacle disappears. The magnificent bird becomes a parent. The female lays eggs inside the cavity, and both parents participate in incubation. The male commonly takes daytime shifts while the female takes over at night. And when the male enters the nest, his enormous tail creates an almost comical problem. Those spectacular feathers can extend beyond the entrance. The bird looks as though his own tail is too large for his home. Yet somehow, he folds it over his back and gets the job done. The quetzal's story becomes even more interesting when you follow what it eats. Despite its dramatic appearance, this bird is largely a fruit specialist. And some of its favorite foods come from the laurel family, including fruits related to wild avocados. The feeding technique is simple. From a perch, the quetzal spots a fruit. It launches out, snatches it, and returns to the branch. Often, the fruit is swallowed whole. But the story doesn't end inside the bird. The seeds eventually return to the forest. And this makes the quetzal more than just a fruit eater. It becomes a seed disperser. In other words, the bird helps move the next generation of trees through the forest. A quetzal can essentially become a flying gardener. But when fruit becomes scarce, its diet expands. Insects, frogs, snails, lizards, and other small prey can become part of the menu. So beneath that beautiful exterior is a surprisingly flexible predator. Yet the quetzal still has enemies. Predators can attack from the trees, and eggs and young birds are vulnerable inside their nests. Even the nest itself creates a problem. The bird needs old, decaying trees. And that brings us to the greatest danger of all. The quetzal doesn't simply need a forest. It needs the right kind of forest. Here is one of the strangest truths about the resplendent quetzal. A dead or decaying tree can be essential to its survival. The quetzal's nesting behavior depends on softwood and suitable cavities. Destroy the mature forest. And you don't just remove the bird's hiding places. You remove its potential homes. You can remove the trees that produce its food. You can fragment the forest that allows populations to move and survive. And suddenly, the bird that appears almost magical becomes extremely vulnerable. Habitat loss caused by deforestation, agriculture, logging, and development is one of the major threats facing the species. Climate change adds another layer of uncertainty. Changing rainfall patterns can affect the mountain forests where quetzals breed. Changes in the timing of fruit production can also interfere with the food supply the birds depend upon. And there is another chapter in the quetzal's history. For centuries, humans have admired its feathers. Ancient Maya and Aztec societies regarded the bird as sacred, and its brilliant feathers were associated with priests, nobility, status, and spiritual traditions. The bird became so deeply connected to Mesoamerican culture that its legacy survives in the name of Guatemala's currency. The quetzal is not simply a bird. It is a national symbol. It represents an ancient relationship between people, nature, beauty, and power. But admiration has also created danger. Quetzals have been captured or hunted, and they generally do poorly in captivity. Their survival is therefore closely tied to the forests where they evolved. Perhaps that's why the quetzal became such a powerful symbol of freedom. For generations, people have been fascinated by the idea of a bird that cannot easily be separated from the wild forest that created it. Its brilliant colors belong among the leaves. Its food comes from the trees. Its nest depends on aging forest. Its young begin their lives inside decaying trunks. And its future depends on whether those forests remain standing. The quetzal's beauty can make it seem invincible. But nature doesn't work that way. Sometimes the most spectacular creatures are also among the most dependent on very specific conditions. A quetzal doesn't need a palace. It doesn't need a cage. It needs a living mountain forest. A place where old trees are allowed to decay. Where fruiting trees continue to grow. Where mist still hangs between the branches. And where a flash of emerald can disappear into the canopy before most people even realize it was there. Somewhere above the forest floor, a male quetzal may still be moving through the mist, his enormous tail trailing behind him. For centuries, humans looked at this bird and saw a symbol of the sacred. Today, perhaps we should see something else. A warning. Because protecting the quetzal isn't only about saving one beautiful bird. It's about protecting the entire forest that makes its existence possible. And if those forests survive, the jewel of the cloud forest may continue to shine. Enjoying the video? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss more videos. And share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching.